Awesome. Thank you so much, Kicken. I'm Paige. I'm an alcoholic. And based on some of the conversation we're having before the meeting, I may also qualify as riffraff. So alcoholic, riffraff, got a lot going on. And so I was asked to pick a step or pick something I wanted to talk about. And, you know, one of the things that I just felt called to speak on was chapter 5, how it works. Now, so really what I was wanting to get into is kind of like step 3 or almost like pre-step 3, like setting ourselves up to make that third step decision. Now, I know we've got people from all over the world here in this Zoom room. And so I don't know what your meetings look like necessarily, but I'll tell you where I live in Calgary, Alberta, the custom is that we read how it works at the start of every meeting. And how it works in Calgary, Alberta starts like this. I'm so-and-so, I'm an alcoholic. You know, it sounds like the teachers from the Peanuts, like, and that's my experience with it. But when I have the opportunity to sit down with sponsees and break it down and really have a look at it, there is so much in how it works that I missed because we read it so often and I tune right out. And so to set ourselves up for this, I thought, heck, Steve said it was cool for me to do this, so I'm doing this. Hopefully it's cool for all of you. So let's break it down how it works. And so one of the things, like just to start it, like sometimes when I get into the book, we'll say it in a different way or we'll switch it up to get the real meaning, how it works. And here's what I want to do is say, it works and here is how. This is how the program is going to work. These are the directions. And it says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Now, if you have a mind like mine, you're like, that's bad news. That's bad news. That means people fail, right? But I miss it because I hear it every single time. It's actually really good news. Rarely. It would be rare to see somebody fail who has thoroughly followed our path. If I followed this path thoroughly, it would be rare for me to fail. And as I always say, what's my success rate before coming to the big book? My success rate is 0%. I am 0% successful. So anything is better than my percentage. And so it's saying rarely. And what is the path that I need to thoroughly follow? Well, if I'm on page 58, if you guys are following along, if I pop over to page 59, that is the path. That is the path. If I thoroughly follow the path of all 12 steps, it would be rare of me to fail. And that is good news. Now, sometimes you'll hear in the rooms people say, oh, Bill Wilson said in a famous talk, if he could change anything in the book, he would change rarely to never. Never have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. That's not true. Because Bill knows people like us. And I don't know if you're like me, but I'm assuming if we're hanging out on the Zoom room today, you're a little like me. And if you say never, there's something in my brain that'll tell you, listen, I'm going to do these steps to the best of my ability and get drunk just to spite you, right? So he never said that. He said rarely and he meant rarely. And it says, those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. And I hear this and I think, is this me? Am I one of these people that can't get it? But if I swap the wording, I can hear it in a new way. So it says those who do recover are people who can and will completely give themselves to this simple program. Again, what is this simple program? It's across the page. It is these 12 steps taken out of this book. If I do this work, if I surrender myself to this work to the best of my ability, I can and I will recover. I will have the mental obsession lifted from me. I will have a spiritual experience, and that's a promise that we're going to see. That's right. There's prayers in how it works. There's promises in how it works. There's so much stuff that I didn't see here. So it says usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. And immediately I'm like, that's me. That's me, right? Everyone in here probably. I shouldn't diagnose you guys, but I'm just saying if you're like me, you heard the constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. and thought like, that's me, that's got to be me, I've got to be the one exception, which I find so interesting that we all think we're the exception, right? Like there's something about us that are like, I'm the exception, right? But here's the thing. It's not talking. See, I think that constitutional incapability of being honest with myself must be something like the mental obsession, but it's not. And so if you're new here or you haven't heard about this mental obsession, I'm just going to explain it to you real quick, or go on a really long tangent and blow my 45 minutes. Either or, we'll find out. So the mental obsession is the insane thought that I have when I am as sober as I am today. That insane thought that says, Paige, this time will be different. You can have 1 or 2 drinks. It says, Paige, nobody will ever know. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. Nobody will ever know. It tells me I'll go out this weekend and then I'll get a real good surrender and I'll be really good to work AA when I come back. It tells me like I'm going to kill myself anyway, so why don't I get drunk? It's that insane thought that I have that tells me to take that first drink. And it is a lie that I believe time and time again. And no matter how much I want to, no matter how much I need to, I cannot stop myself from taking that first drink. That cannot be what it's talking about, because we all experience that. That is one of the diagnostic criteria for alcoholism. So if I think, no, that I must be constitutionally incapable because I said I'm never going to drink again, and I drank again. Nope, that's alcoholism. Unfortunately, this program is meant for alcoholics, and it's kind of meant to be alcoholic proof. So nope, you're not constitutionally incapable. Just wanted to point that out. And what we're talking about is that constitutional incapability of being honest with myself. It's a weird thing. I work with a lot of people, and in early sobriety, there's a lot of shoplifting. I don't know what that's about. And there's absolutely no judgment. We're not talking about shoplifting. We're not talking about infidelity. What we're talking about is that inability to be honest with myself. And what does that look like? That I'm come to the end of myself, that I can't do this thing on my own, that I need help and I need another way. And if I can say that I am screwed, I'm capable of being honest with myself as an alcoholic. That's it. That's it. So if I am like, no, I got it. No, I can do it my way, and I have alcoholism, that's kind of what we're talking about there. And it says there are such unfortunates. There's no judgment. There's no shame. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. And it says they're naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Hold on a sec. So let's switch the meaning, because we've heard this time and time again. So those who recover, those who get well, are those who are capable of grabbing a hold of these steps, grabbing a hold of these actions, and developing a manner of living. What is that? That is a way of life. I've got some good news and I got some bad news. The good news is I don't do it all at once. The bad news is I don't do it all at once. The bad news and the good news is that this is a way of life. I cannot set this thing and forget this thing. When I work with sponsees, I talk all the time about how I cannot have crock pot sobriety. I really hope you guys have crock pots in Sweden and you know what I'm talking about, right? Like I cannot set it and forget it. I've got to have stir fry sobriety, right? I got to be active. I got to be working at it every single day. So can I grasp and develop this way of life, which does ask of me rigorous honesty. It does ask of me, we grow into that cash register honesty where I'm not stealing anymore. We grow into that honesty where I'm living up to my sane and sound sex ideal, where I'm not hurting people with that part of my life. I'm growing into that capacity to be honest, to say, here's where I was wrong and here's where I harmed you. Can I do that? Little by little, step by step, with a sponsor who's taking me through. And this book, absolutely. The power of God, of your own understanding, absolutely, you can. And maybe I shouldn't be speaking in this way, but heck yeah, you can. Yes, you can. Just decided to turn this into a motivational thing. I don't know. I'm rooting for all of you. And it says, so, and here's the thing, I've got this negative mindset that's like, hey, I'm constitutionally incapable. That's me. I can't do this thing. And so if we've settled down on absolutely, I am for sure constitutionally incapable, despite me saying that probably we're not, we've all kind of have to, if we're hanging out on a Zoom room on a Friday noontime or evening, I'm probably constitutionally capable because I realize I'm in trouble. I need some help. But if I've decided that nope, I'm the exception, I'm constitutionally incapable, it says their chances are less than average, not zero, not nothing, less than average. And average is actually pretty good. You know what average is? It would be rare to fail. That is average. So this first paragraph that we hear and I hear time and time again, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's actually really good news. If I throw myself into this work on a daily basis, I got a really, really good chance. And my experience is as an alcoholic, if I do it my way, if I try to manage my life my way, if I got my yeah buts, if I got my andas, and if I got my list and I got a plan and an old idea, my chances are zero from my own experience. And that's just me. And those are just my numbers and just my averages. And it says there are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders. I want you to know I also jumped on that train. I'm like, I got some outside mental health stuff. Yeah. I'm like, grave means fatal, guys. Like, it's bad. That's what I'm saying. But also, it says many of them do recover, and we do. I saw so many hands go up. We do recover if we have the capacity to be honest. And again, we grow into that cash register honesty and make amends for it. And we grow into that honesty around our relationships and grow and make amends for it. You know what I mean? We grow into that, but it's starting with, I am at the end of myself and I need this help. That is what is being asked of me. And so it says our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like. And what did I used to be like? And so when I share my story, what I used to be like looks like what happens to me when I take a drink, where that physical allergy, that phenomenon of craving takes off and I need more. And the more that I drink, the more that I need to drink. And what happens on my own power when I stop? That world gets gray. I'm sober and I'm miserable and I can't sit and be okay in my own skin. And I get that thought that tells me I can take a drink. And then I go off again. That's what I used to be like. And of course, I'm riddled with defects of character. Obviously, I still am. Talk to my sponsor about it. She's got a list. All right. Well, I have a list too. I've taken that to God. Anywho, what we used to be like and what happened. And what happened for an alcoholic of my type is I had a spiritual awakening, a spiritual experience as the result of the 12 steps. That's what happened. I took these steps that I didn't want to, that I didn't like, that I didn't think would work, that are on page 59 out of the book. And then I had a spiritual experience. And what we are like now. And of course, so what we are like now is the mental obsession has been removed, contingent upon the actions that I take today. But it also looks like I'm able to show up for life in a way that I never thought possible. It looks like I no longer have that thought that tells me I can kill myself. Things like that I'm able to show up and be more and more the woman who I believe God would have me to be. And of course, I fall short. Of course, regularly. Keep coming to this thing, come to that big book study that I'll be doing, and you'll see how regularly I fall short. I fall short, and that's okay. And it says, now this is a question. If you have decided you want what we have, and so I pose it to my sponsees when we're going through this part of the book. Hey, do you want what we have? It's okay if you don't. You might not. And are you willing to go to any length to get it? I can ask myself, and I can ask myself that honestly, and I ask my sponsees that. And if that is the case, if yes, then we are ready to take certain steps. Spoilers, it's the 12 steps, right? That's what we're doing. That's them, right? And so if I'm at the end of myself and I believe that there's maybe hope in what you guys have, that I'm ready to dive in. And it says, at some of these we balked, which is not the noise a chicken makes. Right? I don't know why I would make that joke. It's not even the best joke, but to balk, it's actually a term that comes from baseball. So if I was a pitcher in baseball, like the person that throws the ball, to balk is to make an attempt to start to throw the pitch and then to suddenly stop. Or a better visual, if you've ever seen horses like doing horses over jumps, like those races where they're going, or that sort of thing. Imagine that horse galloping towards that jump, galloping, and then at the very last minute doing the thing where it's like, nope, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. And so it says that some of these we balked, usually 5, maybe 9, right? Like we're like, ooh, that one, no, thank you. No, don't want to do that, right? Yeah. And here's the thing, a lot of how this part of the book, at least in my part of the world, is read, is we thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be, right? Like, and like the Peanuts, right? The teacher from the show, the Peanuts, like, rah, 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 rah. But I'm going to read it with the inflection that I feel like it was meant to be read with. I don't know what it was meant to be read with, but I'm going to read it how I want to read it because I've been given some time to do this. So thank you for your patience with me. All right, so it says, we thought we could find an easier, softer way. Is that not our experience? I thought I could find an easier, softer way. I thought I didn't have to do all of it. I thought maybe I could just go to some meetings and take the edge off and maybe do some of it, right? I thought I could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. It's not saying, hey, like, could you please? It's saying with all the sincerity I can muster in and of myself, dive in and do this thing. And it says some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil. That is 0. That is 0% until we what? Let go. Absolutely. And see, the third step is really, I'm standing at the precipice. It's like I am standing at the edge of a cliff and I'm making a decision. See, in step 1, what I realized is the way in which I was living my life was absolutely not working. It was not working. And what I needed to do was take a leap of faith. That there was a way in which a new way of life was possible. A new experience was possible, but I haven't had it yet. And like, let's be honest, when I come to 12th step, what I'm seeing is you guys. And most of you are happy and sober at the same time, right? And I'm thinking maybe, just maybe, that could happen for me too. Just maybe. And it is this leap of faith. That's what I'm taking. And I don't know if it's I don't know what's gonna happen. But that is what it looks like for me to let go. And let go. Absolutely. So it says, remember, we deal with alcohol. Cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. And if I were to tie that into a step, what step would that be? But step 1, I am dealing with alcohol. And my experience is it has been cunning, it has been baffling, and it has absolutely been more powerful than me. And on my own, coming up against alcohol, there's nothing that I have been able to do. And I drink again, and I drink again, and I drink again. That is step 1. And it says, but there is one who has all power. That one is God, of your own understanding. May you find him now. Exclamation mark. We don't get a lot of those in the book. So if you're thinking I might be a little enthusiastic, I mean, that was meant to have the exclamation mark, right? And what step would that be? Step 2, there is a power. Step 1, I am powerless. Step 2, there is a power. And I need to find that power now. And there's 2 ways to look at that. One with the sense of urgency in which I need to work these steps. Now I've got to dive in and do this work, but also now in this moment, right? In Bill's story, it says we need not look any further for utopia. Utopia, capital U, heaven. We have it here and now in this moment. It says half measures availed us nothing. And there's a type of like, you read that, I'm like, it's like not even half, not even half. Like, I'm kind of hoping some half measures would, like, could half measures avail me like a quarter, 25%, like try to do some math with it. Yeah, that's my hope. And we say that, we make that joke, half measures, but the sincerity of it, doing half this work, doing some of this work gets me nothing. And what is nothing? Well, for an alcoholic of my type, that's drunk or suicidal. That's my experience, right? And it says we stood at the turning point. Well, so we're standing at that cliff, going to decide whether or not we take that leap of faith. It says we asked. And what I was taught is anytime in this book, it says we ask, that is a prayer. Y'all know there's a prayer and how it works. I didn't. It was a surprise to me. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. And what a beautiful prayer. What a beautiful prayer to take any time that I need to take a leap of faith, that I need to step out of my comfort zone. See, when I was newly sober, I had a friend in the program, and he would always say, Paige, everything you want in life is outside of your comfort zone. And I would respond to him with, absolutely. Well, I didn't say this, to be honest with you. I didn't tell him this. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. But internally, I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. You know what I want? My comfort zone. It's comfy in here. That is what I want. My comfy zone. Thank you. I'm good. I'm going to stay right here. But what I didn't realize that if I take those leaps of faith outside of my comfort zone grows. I was somebody when I got here, I couldn't speak in meetings. I couldn't even say I'm Paige, I'm an alcoholic. I couldn't even say I'm Paige. They would just be like, would you like to share? And I'd shake my head and say no. But after steps out in faith, we got me nattering on for about 45 minutes. You know what I'm saying? And that's not me. That is the power of God working through me as a result of taking actions that I don't want to take and taking a leap of faith. And the third step really is a leap of faith. If I have not taken the third step before, I don't know if these steps are going to work. Of course, I'm scared about some of them. I'm not sure about step 5. I'm not sure about step 9 because I'm afraid you'll reject me and you'll hate me. I don't know if I could possibly ever carry this message to another alcoholic. I think I could make it worse. It's a fatal disease. It's about as bad as it can get. I'm not going to make it worse, by the way. Like if I sit down with the power of God and this book, I might help, but can't make it worse. But that's what this is. I'm at the turning point. I'm taking that leap of faith. And it says, here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. And one of the things that I realized is this book is all about experience. And the 12 steps are all about experience. It is not here the steps that you should take because we found after a number of double-blind experiments this to be a good practical idea. No, here are the actions that we took. Here are the things that we did. And there's a lot as an alcoholic that I can and will try to argue with. Yes, absolutely. But I cannot argue with your experience. I can say, I don't like it. I can say, I don't know if it'll happen for me, but I cannot say that it happened for you. And it said, when it says which are suggested as a program of recovery, absolutely, they are just suggestions. But keep in mind, we don't have an alternative set of suggestions. If you're like, I don't like these suggestions, I don't have a plan B. We only have this. And that is what we have, and we do it incredibly well. And so one of the things is I realized the steps are written in plural past tense because it is a report of the actions that the original members have taken. Here is what we did, and not just the original members. See, every time an alcoholic, every time somebody goes through this book and takes these steps and has a spiritual experience, we are building upon the experience and evidence that this works. And so that has been my experience. Here's what we have done. So 1, it says, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol. Check. Did I do that? Dash, that our lives had become unmanageable. And see, that's the thing is if I am an alcoholic, I'm powerless over alcohol because I take that first drink and I cannot control the amount that I take. But I'm also powerless over alcohol because every time I swear off in and of myself, everything I try to put between me and that first drink fails and I drink again. I am absolutely powerless over alcohol. And because I can't drink successfully means dry pants with a full bank account and going home with whom I was supposed to, because I can't do that. And I can't stay sober. My life has become unmanageable. Hey guys, I was the one managing it. Sounds like I shouldn't manage it anymore, just if you're wondering. And then step 2 said, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves. So the first thing in step 2 is asking me to believe is that there is a power greater than myself. Can I start there? Is there one? Well, I just admitted in step 1 that alcohol might have been one, right? And I come to a meeting like this and I see people who are happy and in recovery and have recovered all at the same time. And is it possible that could happen for me? And they said a power greater than themselves made that possible. I can't deny that. So is it possible that there could be one? We got a whole chapter to help us bridge that gap. We agnostics. And it says, could restore us to sanity. And what does that look like? That looks like the insane thought that I have to take a drink or a mood-altering substance is relieved. The mental obsession is gone as the result of the steps. Can I believe that there is a power, and can I believe that power could do that? Where it doesn't happen in step 2, but could I believe that it could? In step 3, it says made a decision. And step 3 is, now I'm going to say just, but it's not just, it's a pretty big monumental decision, a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. One of the things I want to point out is I'm not turning my will and my life over in step 3. I'm deciding to. But how does my will and my life get turned over? Well, we're going to get into, like, we won't together today, because I decided to natter on about this part of the book. But as we continue on, we're going to see that 3rd step decision. And we read all 12 steps before we make that 3rd step decision. So that 3rd step decision is to work the rest of these steps like my life depends on it. Because in step 1, I realized it does. That is step 3. And as I work the steps, that is how my will and my life get turned over to the care of God. And that's the thing. This is a leap of faith. I don't know if I will be cared for. I'm hoping that I will. But here's the thing. Every time I read a promise in this book, and there are so many, not just the step 9, the step 10, there's promises that we would have already read up to this point. Goodness, there's promises in 2 wives, you guys. There's promises throughout this whole book. Every time I read a promise, and deeper than that, every time I experience a promise, that becomes evidence of care, that I have been cared for. You know, in the 3rd step, I have this memory. One of the gifts of this way of life is I've gotten to have my niece and my nephew back in my life. And they're like two of like my favorite people. They're incredible, wonderful kids. And, you know, they experienced this thing, both of them, when they were about 18 months, 2 years old, like toddler age. You know what I mean? Toddler age. Where what they would do is they would stand on like the top of the arm of the sofa, right? And they would do this thing and they'd stand on it. And I would be having my coffee and they would be like, Auntie Paige, catch. And they would leap. And then I would have to, like, oh my God, don't drop the toddler. You know what I mean? Like, catch, right? And they would take that leap of faith with complete abandon. And that is what I'm asked to do. And I reflect upon why were they able to take that leap of faith? And it's because every single time they were caught. Not once that they had been dropped. And see, I don't know when I first take that leap of faith if I will be caught or not, but I'm trusting that I will. And that has been my experience. I have taken spiritual actions consistently, these spiritual actions consistently. And sometimes they haven't gone well. I've had amends where people didn't want to talk to me, or I've had 5th steps where I've bored several nuns during 5th steps. Just that's a whole other story. Bored them. I think I'm a badass. Nope, I'm boring nuns. But I have never regretted a spiritual action that I've taken. Never regretted having my hand out to a sponsee. Never regretted a 12-step call. Never regretted, which is an indication that I've been caught. And it's just trusting that that might be true. So 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Because I've been making a lot of inventory for a lot of years, but I'll tell you guys, it was all about you. I was like, you guys are all the dickheads. And then I get to the 4th step and I realize, oh, surprise, I'm the dickhead. It was news to me. And in the 5th step, that's where I share that. It says 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being. No matter how much of a dickhead I've been, I'm no better or no worse, another human being. And there's 2 ways to look at admitted. One is, hey, I've got to admit to you that I stole your car, I slept with your husband, and I peed on your carpet. That's one type of admitted. I never did those things. It was linoleum. But the other type of admitted is if you were to go to a baseball game to watch the pitcher balk, or to go to a hockey game for the Canadians and the Swedes, a rugby match for those in the UK, maybe soccer, I don't know, football, not soccer, my bad. But I'm so sorry. But if I were to get a ticket, on that ticket, it would say admit 1. So another way to look at admit is to let in. So in the 5th step, what am I doing? I am letting in God and another human being. Now, step 6, it says we're entirely ready to have God removed. Sounds like God is doing the removing, not me. Sounds like defect removal is upper management. Oh, I got fired. I am no longer in upper management, because if you saw my life, it was a dumpster fire. So I'm no longer in defect removal. I've got relegated to the willingness department. So in step 6, all I am doing is about being willing to have God remove all these defects of character. And so the exact nature of my wrongs, my defects of character, and my shortcomings, they are the exact same thing. And in step 7, it says, humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. Again, same as defects, same as exact nature of my wrongs, because it wouldn't make sense for me to tell you that I did these things. Ask God to remove this other thing, and then, or be willing to have God remove this other thing, and then to ask God to do a separate whole third thing. Like it just flows. For me, that they are the same thing. And if you have a different lens on it, that's totally cool. I can be wrong. And it's when it says humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings in the original manuscript, it says humbly on our knees, ask him to remove our shortcomings, holding nothing back. And when I see that, like I have a disability, so I can't do the on my knees part, because like if I get on my knees, I have a hard time getting off, like back up. So my prayer will be like, relieve from me these defects of character, but then it'll switch very quickly to help me get up, help very quickly. So the on the knees doesn't fit for me, but holding nothing back. And what I see is much of my life is trying to climb this ladder of success, to be better, to do more, but actually it's surrendering more and more of myself to the God of my understanding. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed. And we will see when we get into the reading on step 8 that it's not just persons. If we owe creditors, we pay them back. All persons we had harmed, and became willing to make amends to them all. Again, what is required of me? Willingness. See, I'm not in management. I'm not in management. I'm in willingness. That is what is being asked of me. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued. You know what's annoying about that? It said continued when I first got here. It said continue at 5 years sober, said continue at 10 years sober, said continue today. Continued. Sounds like I can't rest on those laurels, so I've got to continue. Continue to take personal inventory. I learned how to do that in step 4. And when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Where did I learn to admit I was wrong? Step 9. Darn it. Got to keep taking inventory and making amends on a daily basis. Okay. Stir-fry recovery. Yeah. And then it says sought through prayer and meditation. I'll be honest with you guys. Thought it said and/or for a while. Quite a while there. I'm like, or. I can pick and choose. No, and meditation to improve. Man, there's no limit on improve. That says like I gotta keep doing it too. to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. You know what I can do? I can turn that into a prayer. God, I ask for knowledge of your will for me and the power to carry that out. Does that mean there's not just one sneaky prayer, but two? Heck yeah, 2 sneaky prayers. Yeah. And don't you worry, we're going to flip the page and come to our sneaky promise. So on top of page 60, it says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. See, Abby Thatcher made a promise to Bill. He said, when these things were done, I would enter upon a new relationship with my Creator, and I would have the elements of a way of living which answered all my problems. So what it is saying is, if I do this work, right, as the result of these steps, I take these steps to the best of my human and imperfect ability, I will have a spiritual experience. I will have a spiritual awakening. That is a promise. A promise. Sneaky. I love it. And it says, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs, even in the Zoom room, even on the highway, even in the grocery store, even with our family, all our affairs. And these 12 steps are the principles. These are the actions that allow that to be possible. And if you're like me, you had this experience, many of us exclaimed, what an order! I can't go through with it. And there's a group called YPAW. It's young people in AA, and they have conferences. And what they do is they have these things where they do call outs. So as how it works is read, like they'll read cunning, baffling, powerful, like that alcohol is cunning, baffling, powerful, and they'll be like, and expensive. So they'll yell these things out, right? And it's fun and it's shenanigans. But in some of the call outs, it helps me to illuminate how I'm really feeling. And so if I was in a YPAW meeting, I would yell out, I'm so discouraged, right? And how of us have not seen the steps on the wall or the steps on the Zoom screen and been, oh, that's a little overwhelmed. That's a lot. I don't know if I could do all that. And it says, don't be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. The YPAWs would yell, but we're saints. We are not saints. What's the point? The point is we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. And I actually had this kind of weirdly powerful experience. So with my close friends, whenever my close friends would give me like a compliment, like, oh, Paige, you work with a lot of sponsees, blah, blah, blah. I would be like, yes, I need to be on a dollar store candle, which is to be like, yes, I'm a saint. We are not saints. And I don't actually think that's not at all. It was just a joke. But when I was doing an actual very serious meditation, there was something that came to me, is that even in that, Kicken's got a candle. Even in that joking around, and even I'm not serious, I don't want to be a saint. Although actually there's a famous gentleman, he's passed on, and he was a very spiritual man. He was called Thomas Merton, and he described what sainthood is. I think it's being like a perfect, free from doing all bad or thinking all bad thoughts. No, being a saint, as he described it, is being who you were truly meant to be. It's being the truest version of yourself, who God would want you to be. In that way, I would want to be a saint. But I was in this meditation and having this meditative practice, and what came to me was that, no, I don't want to be a saint. What I want is to live my life in such a way that I allow my sponsees and the people that I work with and the people that I meet to become saints in their own life. And that was something so powerful. That's how I want to live my life. And when it says the point is we are willing to grow along spiritual lines, the principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. I have a defect that is called being pedantic, and there's a lot of places where I am pedantic, and I need not be pedantic. Pedantic is to be very particular about needless details just for the sake of being right, which is self-seeking. Anywho, because I need to be right with an audience. I need to be right and have everyone agree. But This is where I'm intentionally pedantic. Sometimes in the rooms, I'll hear it's progress, not perfection. But I always want to come back to how and where am I progressing? Because oftentimes I can confuse the gifts of recovery with recovery itself. I've got my family back, I'm progressing. I've got my job back, I'm progressing. I've got the vehicle, I've got this, I've got that, I'm progressing. No, how am I progressing spiritually? How am I growing spiritually? Spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection. And it says our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. I'm about to be controversial and end on a controversial note. Yeah. A minute late, probably 2 or 3 minutes late, 2 minutes late. I'll try to keep it under a minute and then over to you guys. So it says, these are the 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. That's step 1. And did my experience and reading through the book up to We Agnostics and even up to that first paragraph of We Agnostic cement that is step 1 for me? Absolutely. Then it says B, that probably no human power, not the love of my life, not the love of children, not the love of my family, not the best sponsor in the world, that no human power could have relieved my alcoholism. Here's the controversy. Also step 1. Also step 1. Controversial. People are like, it's step 2, step 1. And I don't need to be right. I don't, right? I don't. But it's just that idea, if a human power could have relieved my alcoholism, it would have worked. And seeing that no human power could relieve my alcoholism is that coming to the end of myself. See that God could and would if he were sought. That's step 2. That there is a God and that God will. But what is the responsibility that I have to seek? And how do I seek the God of my understanding that I don't understand? I dive in with complete abandon into these steps. And it then says, being convinced we're at step 3. We're prepared and ready to continue to lay down that foundation of the third step decision. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to share. Thank you, guys.